Good evening, everybody. We're going to get going at 8 o'clock Sydney time, which isn't too far away. So just be patient with me for a few minutes and we'll get going. Thank you. For those that are joining us on YouTube, if you're on the YouTube streaming channel right now, if you want to be able to ask questions, then you need to actually go to our website, acy.com. I'll just bring up that page. You need to get along to our website and register and join us in the actual webinar, and then you'll be able to ask questions. If you're on the YouTube stream, I can't see the chat, so I'm unable to answer your questions if you type them in. Okay, everybody, can just going to show of hands that you can hear me okay and see the screen. Good evening, Nathan. Can you hear me okay? Excellent. Okay, everybody, welcome to this evening's ACY Securities webinar. My name is Duncan Cooper. Thanks very much for attending. Just please read through the risk disclaimer. Tonight we're going through a live market analysis webinar. So please just read through the risk disclaimer as we're going through the webinar. If you have any questions, then just type them in for me. And to those that are saying hello to me in the chat, hello back to you. Thanks for coming along this evening. All right, let's move along. If you don't know me, my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm the Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor at ACY Securities. I'm a full-time Forex trader, been trading the Forex market for more than 15 years, educating clients for more than 10. If you need to contact me, you can email me at duncan.cooper@acy.com. And if you want to connect with me, I'm doing some analysis at the website. You can get me at the address of acy.com, market news. I'm on the YouTube channel ACY Securities Australia with my video analysis. And those are my Twitter and LinkedIn handles if you want to follow me. I'll just give you a few seconds to write those down if you need to make a note. All right, so this week we're doing live market analysis, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 o'clock Sydney time in the evening. Next week, starting on Tuesday, I'm going to be restarting the beginner webinar series. There's a few extra ones added in. We used to run this with 12 webinars. It's now 15. So starting next Tuesday, we're going to go through technical analysis basics, which is going to cover very basic charting. What does a chart tell you? And we'll go through the most important candlestick patterns that traders use. And then on Thursday, we'll go through trade orders and execution. What order types can you use? I'll go in the platform and show you how you can execute them. And then we'll get into the analysis topics that I feel are very important and that I use every day. And the week after, we'll start with support and resistance. The next Wednesday, we'll still be doing a live market analysis webinar in the middle, but Tuesday, Thursday, they'll be on an educational topic. And it'll be those first two listed on the screen. All right. So let's get to the charts. Just going to look at see who's in the room. And just looking at the names. Not sure if everybody's had the opportunity to download my configuration of the trading platform. So we'll get to my platform. Just bear with me. I'm in a slight technical issue. Here we go. And you'll see my platform is a little bit different than the one you can just download, bog standard, from the ACY Securities website. So if you wanted to upgrade to my charts, indicators and layouts, then I'll just give you a link that you can use. So I'm going to put that in the chat. So that's a link to a raw file that you can download. And that's this file here. So you do need WinRAR software to open it up. So that's a free download. Just go and Google it. And then double click on it. Just on my other screen. Double click on it. Inside it, there are some folders that you need to move to the MT4 program folder. There's a video here. Just play that. It's a 2-minute how-to video. That's me showing you how to do it. Just takes 2 minutes. It's real simple. Then you reopen up the platform and you'll have my charts and layouts. Now, if you do the upgrade, it doesn't delete anything in the platform. It just adds in for you some templates of mine: indices, mega trend, pivot points, daylight saving, and pivot points. Along the toolbar here, it adds in some extra buttons. Down here at the bottom where the profile section is, it will add in 12 pairs daylight saving. Those are the charts I'm using tonight. Indices and mega trend. So it adds in. If you've already got things in there, it doesn't delete, it just adds in. Okay. So if you want to follow along with me in the webinars and the live market analysis, then upgrade your charts and you can follow along nice and easy. So let's get into the charts. If you have any questions, just type them into the Q&A for me and I'll pick those up as they come in. Now, what I've been doing with the analysis that we've been doing the webinars over the last week is I've been updating my charts and then just following along day by day so that you can see what's going on to what I've been discussing. And I might start with the pound dollar. Last night before we finished, I was discussing the 38 level. This is a demo account because I don't use my live account when I'm doing a webinar, but for educational purposes, I was putting a trade in there to sell it to 138. Now, it did hit, came up and stopped me up right to the pip. What it hadn't really factored in was I needed a few more pips on my stop because you go to the 4-hour chart, where price went up to, it came up to resistance up here. And I knew it was there, but hadn't factored in. I should have really been getting my stop loss slightly above there. So when I did get stopped out, I came back to the charts and was, gnashing my teeth a bit because I should have had my stop a little bit further above, just above resistance would have been ideal. So what I did decide to do was it was holding here at the M5 pivot, 3 candles in a row holding at that level. So I managed to click in almost to where I got stopped out, put my stop just above resistance. We can see now price moved down. I also reinitiated a trade at 138 to sell because that was a strong level of resistance that I was looking at. And then obviously price has been moving down yesterday and further down today. So I'm just going to move it back to, for those that may have not been following over the last few sessions, this is the weekly chart. Let me just get that level of resistance off. And what I've been saying is that this is in a downtrend on the weekly, and I've been envisaging that this is going to be a rally point for a further move down to support the old weekly low or further down to the 127 extension level. So we did rally yesterday almost to the high of last week, but couldn't take it out. Last week we had a doji type of spinning top. This week at the moment we've rallied up to the high of last week, retraced back down, again failing at the 79% retracement level. So this potentially is a lower top on the weekly chart moving down. That's my thought process. We can see a nice rejection doji there, close to last week's high, failing once more at the 138.05 79% level and failing at the figure. And now it's putting in a lower bottom today, breaking the last higher bottom. So this is now turning very negative on the daily chart. Weekly trend is down. Daily chart was up, but now it is down today. It's breaking below the higher bottom. So yesterday's high is a minor lower top to a lower bottom. Your 4-hour chart up in this area here. I think I mentioned that yesterday. There was a bit of negative divergence. So the buyers forced it up. Sellers took control just ahead of resistance that resistance area. I'm going to use this top to the left at 138.34. I'm using the final top there at 138.34. And we can see that we've had almost 2 touches at that level there. Yesterday we failed, and now the market's clearly moving down. The 1 hour chart's just going to tell you it's in a downtrend. We're moving down at the moment to today's projected low. So getting in for this move, you can't go back in time. And we've almost done the range for the day. So it's not in the most optimal area to be a seller at. You want to ideally you want to try and sell a bit further up on a rally, if at all you can. Now it might not rally, and yesterday somewhere would have been a good point to take a trade. Failure up here. Earlier in the day, maybe. Well, really, it spiked up to the central pivot almost. Didn't give. I'm just trying to work out where my trend line would be. Probably there. Breaking through that trend line could have been an option for you to start to look to sell, and that would have worked out profitably for you. At the moment, it's too far down in the day to just jump in and sell. I'd have to see some kind of price retracement. So tomorrow, this is probably going to come down to today's projected low and then bounce around. Tomorrow, I'd be looking at the central pivot. If we can rally back up a bit tomorrow, can it fail at the central pivot, give you a trend line break for an opportunity to sell? But quite clear the trend is down. Okay, in that pair. Now let's get into the dollar yen. Anybody that was in my webinar yesterday, go back and watch the video recording now that's listed on YouTube. You will have seen that I highlighted this area over here at the 114.20 level to look for an opportunity to sell. We don't really need that color code in there anymore. But if you were watching that area, I was asleep when this trend line break came in. But when I was awake here, you really could take a trade in the same area, putting your stop above the high. So if you're awake at this point in time, you could have gotten away with about a 16 pip risk on the trade. Same sort of thing here. So just for the purposes of demonstration of taking a trade at that level, trades at break even. Currently, the trade is up 63 pips, which is ideal. We've met today's projected low. So where to trade on this pair at the moment, you need to wait for it to cycle back up a bit. It's just to put in the low of the day. But in terms of analysis, I did actually a video analysis on the website, but you need to get to your monthly chart. Let me just take off this fib. Price last week traded up on the monthly chart to significant resistance. There's 2 monthly tops here that the market's traded up to. 114.72, we went up to 114.69, and the other one is at just trying to get it to tell me. It doesn't want to tell me. I'll move down to the weekly chart in a moment, and I'll be able to tell you the level. Well, we've got 2 monthly tops up here that price is traded up to. And if we hold there over the long term, we could be just trading in this very large range to the bottom. So this is a really good area if you wanted to get potentially a long-term trade to the downside, failing at major resistance. So to the weekly, I've got a few levels in here. 114.72 is a monthly top. I was just showing you the one slightly below that level is at 14.54. And there's a weekly top here that I was discussing yesterday at 114.20. And that lined up with the 62% level. And so that was a level I was highlighting as a really good level to look for an opportunity to trade down from. All right. So we've traded into resistance. We've fallen down last week, closed on the lower last week. This week, we've been retracing back up within that candle, coming back up to test the weekly resistance. Trend is up on the weekly, but we're at a key level of resistance. The day trend, we're putting in a lower top. If we break this low, the day chart trend turns to down. MACD is already crossed down, kind of verifying potentially that's going to happen. but we don't know yet if we are going to break that low. 4-hour chart, highlighted this yesterday. There is MACD divergence on the final top, higher top in price, but a lower top on the indicator. See that? That's often a precursor to the change in trend. So when you see that and price moves down, often then we get a retracement to the 62.79% area or resistance that we're failing at. Had a fib drawn across that range. There's your 1-hour chart. Had this area drawn in, 114.20, lines up with the 62% retracement area. And that's pretty much where the market traded above yesterday. Gave you a trend line break on the 15-minute chart as it moved back down. Hit that area again today. And as you can see, it's been moving down. So it was a really good area to look for a trade. Hopefully some of you took advantage of that. I know Nathan, one of our senior account managers on the Australian desk, I was talking to him today. I know he took a short up at that level. And I think he actually got short a little bit further up here as well, where earlier last week, we identified a trend line break up here. So I've actually got a couple of trades on at key areas where trades set up. One up around about the 114.50 level, and now one at the 14.20 level. So scaling in 2 levels, and it's been very profitable on that move down. All right, so the 15-minute chart, yes, it's put in the range for the day. I'd need to see this move back up a little bit. Could it come back up to the figure level and fail tomorrow, today? Tomorrow, if it comes back up, does it just fail at the central pivot? Those are the kind of levels we're looking at tomorrow. Today, looking at the central at the 114 level. Tomorrow, wherever the central pivot is, looking for a failure there. So we can review that tomorrow again. Can't go back in time though and take a trade where it did set up there. And you could have also looked at, trading a trend line breakdown through there. All right, going to start from the left side, Aussie Yen, and go through what we've been looking at over the last, this is now the 4th in a row webinar on just technical analysis. And as we started it last week on the Aussie Yen, I've been looking at this area. It's really from the monthly starting. Monthly trends up, but we're at monthly resistance and a weekly level of resistance here. This is 85.80 is the top monthly resistance. 85.18 is the weekly resistance. Last week we traded above, rejected, doji candle. This week, on the good news of today that got released this morning for the Australian market, came up to retest that top again at 85.80, but once more, it's actually below both levels now, just. So that weekly trend is still up. It could still move through there, but it's at a very critical level of resistance. If the dollar yen is going to sell down from its critical level of resistance, so is the Aussie yen. Daily, potentially here putting in a lower top. We've got an outside reversal candle at the resistance monthly area 85.80. Not quite crossed down yet on the MACD, but if we have another day down, it probably will. 4-hour, discussed this yesterday. There's negative divergence on last week's top. Higher top in price on the 4-hour there, but not on the indicator. So the good news pushed it up. It was going up through yesterday, pushed up finally on the good news this morning. And got a little bit above the 79, a little bit above monthly resistance, and then started to move back below. When I was just showing you in a downtrend now, we've done the range for the day. And you'll see here, this monthly level of resistance at 85.80. That's critical resistance to this pair, that top there. So I was watching it and I was thinking about all you guys coming to the webinar tonight. And I thought, okay, if I was trading this pair, where would I be trading? Looking for a failure at the 79% area and wanting to see price fall back below major resistance at 85.80. And what you'll see is that I actually took a trade, sold it at 85.80 at the resistance area. When I saw it come down, start to falter here. So it was selling at 85.80, stop above the high point there, and it needed about a 30 pip risk. Now it's moved down more than 30 pips, risk out of the trade. It's just a question of how now does it want to move down over the next few days. That trade is now at worst a break even, or at best it's going to show some profit. It's already up 75 pips. Now, getting down to the 15-minute chart, where could you have executed if you thought this was going to be failing at that monthly resistance? Sorry, I got the wrong tool. My trend line. If you thought this was going to fail at that monthly resistance and the 79% figure level, then there was a simple trend line break at the 85.80 area, just here. Came up for a retest, came up for another retest, but trading that break, stop above the high, you can see what the outcome is. All right, moving to the Aussie dollar, moving to the weekly chart, and well, moving to the monthly chart first of all. Got a lower top down to a bottom here, and I'm expecting this to rally up, put in another lower top and move further down. MACD's crossed down. Weekly's in actually an uptrend at the moment as it moves up against that monthly downtrend. And I've got a fib drawn in at the 50% level. Higher bottom to a higher top. And I've been waiting to see if this can move back below 74.78. That's last month's high. Doesn't want to do it at the moment. Daily chart. It's been trying to hold its uptrend. Still got a higher bottom in play here. But we aren't able to take out the high of last week on the good news that came out this morning on the Aussie release. And that release was, let's just go there. We had CPI came out, kind of slightly better on the trimmed, and the market went up. And so that's why we had a bit of a rally up earlier in Asia. But we've been redrawing back down from 75.32. Now 75.32 is weekly resistance from over here. This 75.03 level is a monthly level from way back in time. And this is last month's high. I've been kind of waiting to see if this will move back below last month's high. That would mean it's weak if you can do that. But there was an opportunity to sell up here at failure at 75.32 weekly resistance. Moving to the 4-hour charts, you can see it has been in an uptrend getting up to that area. Then it put in a negative candle on the 4-hour at 75.32. And the weekly charts turned negative, as we can see, it's been moving down. But if you thought 75.32 was going to be once more a failure point, it failed over here last week. So it wouldn't be that ridiculous to assume that maybe it could fail there again. Putting a fib across that range as well, you would see it's very much like the Aussie Yen. 79% area, slightly above is the 75.32 weekly resistance. And if you had all that on your charts, came up to 75.32 resistance. We had a trend line break. Then it started to chop around here a bit, holding at the 79% fib. Then obviously it's been moving down. So I just saw this holding at the 79% fib and thought, okay, I'm just going to demonstrate for you how you could trade that at that area. You're selling at the 79% fib, put your stop 20 pips above, make sure your stop's above this high point here. As it's moving down 20 pips, get your risk out, which I've done. And this is probably heading down to today's projected low. Might come down to this 74.78. That's this high point here, last month's high. For this to start to move down into a downtrend, let me just get rid of that fib and really start to prove that, yes, this is the area we should be considering to be looking for the market to move down from. Is price really needs to break this support low here at 74.53. So if that gives way, I'm expecting this will move down the range. Test support down here long term, this support down here long term. So it really needs to get below monthly old resistance, well, monthly high point of last month. That resistance area has been acting as support. Can we break back below that level? On the 50-minute chart, here it is down there at today's projected low. So I'd expect to bounce down there. If we get down there, where can we be a seller? Well, we've probably missed the opportunity today. I'll be looking tomorrow at the central pivot. Can that hold a trade down? As well, I'd be looking at the 7,500 level, depending what price does for the rest of the day. If this trades down, holds pretty much down at 74.78 for the rest of the day. This could well trade back up to the 75 level tomorrow. That could well line up close to the central pivot. And that could be a great area to look for an opportunity to trade down on trendline break. But at the moment, you've missed the area of highest probability, which was up here. All right, getting into Euro Yen. Highlighted this area yesterday. This is my 4-hour chart up at the 79% retracement area. Like the Aussie went up to the Aussie Yen and Aussie Dollar went up to the 79% levels, but this really isn't getting up anywhere near there. It's actually broken the low point. So that's not really a valid level anymore. Well, it's still valid if price was to get up there, but I don't think it's going to get up there today. So let's just get it back down to the daily. I think we'll go to, for those that haven't been with me for a few days, failing at monthly resistance up here. 133.12, 134.12. Trend on the monthly is up, but holding at resistance. Notably, all these pairs to the yen are failing at resistance. Weekly, big rejection candle last week into the resistance area, rejected, and we're having a week down. So I'm anticipating this is going to move down to weekly support, 130.73. Trend on the weekly is still up. It's just selling off from resistance. So monthly and weekly trends are up. Your daily trend is putting in a minor lower top here. So if this is an area where we might get a major turn in trend events, then the first hurdle is this area of old support, old resistance becomes new support. So if we're going to end up coming back down to this area down here, price needs to break through this area. So this is the first barrier in the way of this move down. So MACD is crossing down. So in the short term now, trend is down the daily. That's probably the bias you need to look at until we get down to this area of support at 130.73. Today, 4-hour trend is now down. Notably, again, there's some negative divergence on the top, like on the Aussie Yen. 1-hour trend is quite clear down. We've met today's projected low, so this might have a bounce in the short term. And if you're watching this pair, there was a lovely failure there. Doesn't get any better than starting to come down. Central pivot becomes resistance once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. It's telling you it wants to move down from the central pivot, break of a trend line. Now, if you spend time on the charts and you start to understand that the central pivot can become, if we're in a downtrend, a major level of resistance that the market will start to hold at. It's in an uptrend, a major level that the market will start to hold at for support. If you start to see this on the charts time and time again, and you get it into your head that, okay, I'm seeing the same thing all the time, it just keeps happening, the central pivot becomes resistance or support. Support here, resistance, 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 resistance. You could just sell once you see resistance 3 times. If it's there again, if it tries to move through and closes below, that's just resistance that you're at. You could be selling there, stop 20 pips above. It's a high probability area for the market to fail at to move down. So if you did that today, it would have worked, or wait for your trend line break. And she's down to the low of the day. All right, so this, like the other pairs, best opportunity to trade was up here, or that breakthrough there. That said, now we need to see price move back up. You could still trade further down for the day, but it's too long. The move's too long down the track for me to even think about engaging in a sell when the green pivots. Can still move further down, but tomorrow, does it rally back up for that 132 figure? Does it rally back up to the central pivot and start to do this kind of structure again. Do you see a trend line break? So I'll be looking at the figure or the central pivot tomorrow, what's happening around those areas for the next day down. All right. Euro dollar. If you're with me yesterday, highlighted this area here, said the central pivot and this level of old support, new resistance at 1624 could be where the market would top for the day. And I think we were probably here. Just trying to work out where we were. What's the time now on the charts? All right, so we would have been around about here when I identified that level, just here. Obviously that held, trend line break, it moved down nicely. Been bouncing on the next level of support, just trying to move through at the moment. It's not if you're looking for a trade, this is not the best area to trade when you're so close to support. There's no room. You'd have to be trading here on the basis that you expect support to break because you're trading into support. So let's just go up to the higher time frames and see where this support and resistance have been drawn from. Let's go to my weekly chart. Just take the middle line off for the moment. So last week I identified this area of resistance. Weekly broken support becomes resistance at 116.64. That's where the market held. And now we're contending with, this will be probably a daily level of support when we get to the daily. But some more really should have drawn in this area of weekly support, 116.03. So as I say, I know support's there. There's a few levels, 116.03. I don't like to trade in support. I don't like to trade into it on the basis that I think it's going to break either, because more often than not, it might not do, and I end up with a trade that's not going to work. But at the moment, it's trying to move through there. I much prefer the previous level. Previous level was resistance to trade down from. And I showed a trade setup there. I've got a trade at break even, trading down from 116.64 that we covered in the previous webinar. Day chart. We've been topping out at 116.64. The trend is still up in terms of higher tops and bottoms, but this failure here is probably going to mean over time we're going to break through this level of daily support. That's at 115.71. So if you did sell it on a failure at 116.64, it's happy days now, because you're just waiting for these levels to break. But you don't want to be trading into them and initiating a new trade at these levels. So if these levels hold, it's not going to damage my trade because I'm already at break even. So we're moving through 116.03. That's old weekly support at the moment. And day support's here at 115.71. Should really get in the next level at the bottom here, 115.24. Get them on your charts ahead of time so you know where they are when the price gets there. All right. So whilst the day trend's still up, the 4-hour trend structure is breaking down into lower tops and bottoms. One-hour trend is just going to be telling you it's down. Well, almost down. It's testing this low, so may have just broken that one just there. So the trend theoretically is down, but we are trading into a bit of intraday support here from yesterday's low. So it's just in a narrow area, there's not much room left to get down to 115.71. Where do we take a trade? Would have been better to take a trade up here. Sometimes you know where price is probably going. I think it's probably going down to test 15.71, but can you find a high probability entry? I mean, you could have taken that one. The level that I had drawn in was a 4-hour level. So that was a break below a weekly level of support. So that closed just on that candle. Could have been an entry. If you're concerned of this 1-hour support through here, you could have your trade at break even by now. And then it's either going to break through or come back up and take you out at break even. So you shouldn't be at any risk now. as you're trading into the low of yesterday. And then the question is, you know, you've got support here ahead of today's projected low. So if you're in a trade, the wisest thing to do is take profits ahead of support. Unless you've got a crystal ball and you think that this is obviously going to be moving down 200 pips over the next week, or maybe that's your mode of operation. So you're just going to have to endure a bounce down here, and hopefully it doesn't come up to your trade entry. All right, but at the moment, you've already missed the opportunity to trade. It was either further back a couple of days ago, well, yesterday, for example, you could have initiated a great failure trade here at central pivot. There was a potential trade there, but we can't go back in time. But overall, the trend bias there is quite clear down on the euro US dollar. So we'll be looking tomorrow for price to be maybe rallying back up, failing at central pivot. One thing to note, you know, if you're trading in your live account, wanting to take positions on the euro dollar, tomorrow we have October the 28th. And I just need to refresh this page. It's not giving my time zone. Just one moment. All right, for some reason, doesn't want to give me my time zone. There we go, set up my time zone now. So tomorrow, we have the Euro monetary policy statement interest rate decision. So it's not the best time in the world just to be initiating a new trade. If you did it 2 days ago, great. Or if you did it yesterday, great if you're in profit. But not being too far ahead in profit, where you can't manage your trade effectively when a big news item is coming out. You just need to think about that. So that's coming out tomorrow evening Queensland time, 9:45 p.m. And then we've got the press conference at 10:30. So that will definitely impact the euro US dollar. Now, the euro US dollar may well move further down ahead of that, or may just be quite choppy. Ranges for the euro have been quite small over the last few trading days. So that's probably why it's just waiting for that news item to come out. But overall, the trend is down on that pair. Pound yen. That was an area I marked yesterday on my 50-minute chart. This line is monthly what should be support. And I've been saying in the last few webinars that, let's get to the monthly chart, there's a big monthly area of resistance here. And price was above it. And I was saying, I'm not sure price is going to continue above there because it's new. It's a new fresh area that the market hasn't been in for a long time. And again, those two levels here and here, if I move to the weekly chart, you'll be able to read them better. They're at 156.59, 156.07. If you go to your monthly chart, you'll get those levels, but they're at 156.59, 156.07. And we couldn't hold above those on the close last week. We've been trading back above this week, but you can see the negativity there. The market does not like it above that level. So being a buyer above that level is, you know, for me too risky, because the high probability thing is price would potentially move back below that major area of resistance. So that major area of resistance, the highest level at 156.59 for a while. Yesterday was acting as support and we traded above. But you can see today on the daily candle, we're actually putting in a lower top. So all these yen crosses are putting in lower tops. High correlation at the moment on the yen crosses. All right, so if you understand that, don't go looking to be a buyer on the yen crosses at the moment because they're all putting in lower tops. They're all probably going to move back down their ranges. MACD's wanted to cross down here on the pound yen. It's putting in a lower bottom here. It's breaking the last high bottom to a lower bottom, lower top, lower bottom, changing its trend at major resistance. The bias now, what I'd like to see is this holds below both of these levels. Well, the last level is 156.07. I'd like to see this maybe come down a bit deeper so that when it has a rally at some point, this area became resistance, and then you're looking to trade down from that area of resistance, okay? So at the moment, it's already moved down. I'm sure as we get to the lower time frames, it's probably done the range for the day almost. So we want our chart there. It's done the range for the day. So we're expecting a bounce maybe up. We've got some 4-hour support here. Well, that's the daily level of support we've just broken. It's daily and 4-hour level of support. It's testing at 155.92. Get that on your charts. So I'd like price to clearly break below there. That level then becomes new resistance to trade down from. That would be a perfect scenario. Or, sorry, I just need to re-reference myself. 156.07. All right, so that's my monthly level. That's my monthly level. This is a daily level that's just been forming over the last few days. Just wanted to get my head straight. Now, price might bounce here. So this monthly level up here, the final monthly level at 156.59, if it did bounce back up there, this could be a good area to look for an opportunity to trade down from. But I'd much prefer just to see price get back below all this support levels, let the lowest one become resistance, and then be a trader then. So back to the 4-hour, you know, may hold here and bounce around for a bit, but I'd like to see this have a clear break below. Pound yen is not a pair that I'm really focusing on too much, but if that breaks back below, comes back up, retests and holds, then as it starts to move down in this area, look for an opportunity to sell. Quite clear on the day chart, the trend is moving back down to the downside. All right. Pound dollar, we've covered that one already. New Zealand yen, as I've been saying on this pair, if this starts putting a downtrend, then I'll start to look at it, because at the moment it hasn't failed at a significant level of resistance like the other yen crosses. It's been a little bit short of its area. As you can see there, those levels I've got drawn in. 2 monthly high points, 83.90 is the top one, 83.37 is the one to the left. Then there's a weekly level, which I would have to squash in to find. There's a weekly level here as well. Got all those 3 levels drawn in, so sometimes you have to squash in and go back in time. But we've been a bit short of those levels, so what I'd like to see is it hit one of those levels and fail. It hasn't done that. But it is looking like it's putting in the lower top. So if it breaks below the lower bottom, really the trend is changing. Then the question is, going back to my weekly, does this weekly high here become support? 80.17.8. Does that become support for the market to trade up off and move up above? Or does price quite clearly want to come back below that? So for me, I think to start to engage on this pair to the short side, it would have to get back below this weekly top, 80.178. Because this could just start to get into a downtrend hold here. Could just start to move down, break through there, get to that level, that becomes support, and move back up. So on this particular pair for me, I would need to see it getting back below 81.17 to be getting my head around being a seller. So I'll just be watching now 80.17 to see if that becomes support, because if that becomes support, that's where you want to look to be buying for a further move back up to retest the 82.73 weekly resistance area up here. Okay. So I'm just monitoring that pair like I've been monitoring the pound yen. New Zealand dollar. Yesterday I was discussing this 71.70 level. Getting it from the daily chart. This is the high of last month. This is the monthly range. And if you go to my monthly chart, you're going to see that we've got a lower top, lower bottom, like the Aussie yen. It's been rolling back up. It's rolling back up to the 79% level. So the rally back up, this looks exactly like the Aussie dollar. The rally back up has created a weekly uptrend and a daily uptrend. But everything's holding at last month's high and the 79% retracement level. And the day chart trend will quite clearly show you that it's been above and below rejecting. From below, it's been rejecting that level. And we haven't been, once we got back below, one day up, back below, we're not closing above the level. Keeps trading up above it last 3 days, today, yesterday, the day before, and the day before that, trading above 71.70, but can't hold, and it's back below. So this looks to me like the Aussie dollar. It's trying to get back below last month's high, and this could well be moving down to retest this support area down here, that monthly low. Putting in a lower top potentially, you can see it forming there, just here. So if it breaks below that low, that's in a downtrend now on the day chart. For our chart, it's going to be showing a downtrend. It's been countless opportunities to sell at 71.70. And the 1 hour chart is in the downtrend. 15-minute chart, you can see all the countless tags in the area. I've got to sell at that level. I actually sold it yesterday with a 10 pip stop, lost 10 pips. Sold it again today. Trades now at break even. Will it come back up to 71.70, take it out of break even? Time will tell. Just looks a little bit more negative today than it has been over the last few days. So time will tell as to whether we're moving away from 71.70. Just go back to the daily. Let's get in that daily support level drawn in. Price breaking below that level turns the day chart clearly down. That's at 71.29. So just reviewing that one. There's a monthly last move down, major move down. This is a rally, staying at 79% level, moving back below the monthly last month's top. Breaking below 71.29 firmly puts the day chart trend to down. And we're just a little bit short of it on the 15-minute chart. So quite clear, there's still a few buyers down there at 71.29 above, wanting to remain, wanting to keep the trend up on the pair. But I think that might be a bit of a time process for the buyers, and we'll probably see that move down. There's no trade here that I can see that you should be looking to initiate now. You should have been looking for one of those opportunities to sell it at 71.70, all this resistance through here. Earlier in the day, there was a trend line break, but at the moment, this is probably going to come back up the range. Again, I'll just be looking tomorrow, see what it does today. Tomorrow, if we have following it possibly a negative day today, then tomorrow looking for a failure at the central pivot point, trend line break, trading back down from that area. So we can review that again. This may well come back up to 71.70 once more and just be, an ongoing coming back up to test that level, which can be excruciating if you're trading that level because you keep getting to break even and getting stopped out. But sometimes trading is easy. Sometimes it can be a little bit annoying when you keep getting stopped out at break even. All right. So any questions? Those are the pairs I'm following at the moment. Just want to see what the dollar yen's doing. Dollar yen's managed to meet the low of the day. So just click through the pairs. If there's a pair you want me to go through or an instrument you want me to go through before we conclude today, just type it in. I'm just going to click through, see what's been happening on the pairs. Hopefully through the analysis that we've been doing over the last 2 or 3 days, what we've been doing last week, Wednesday, Thursday, then yesterday, Tuesday, and today, hopefully over the last 3 historical ones. If you've been following along, you've been watching some of those levels that I've been giving you, and hopefully you've been able to initiate maybe a profitable trade. Don't have to be trading my setups if you've got your own setup, but you've been able to use some of the support and resistance levels I've been giving you, some of the fib levels I've been drawing in, and the overall trend analysis. Hopefully that's been helping your own personal analysis to move your trading along. And Nathan, you typed something in and I missed it. So you were asking me, is the lower top setup an even better setup on the 15-minute dollar yen? So let's go back to the dollar yen. So you're saying this setup's even better than that one? Was that your question? I think that's your question. This is a lower top area to this area, and we can see that if you go to the 1 hour chart, where this first trend line break came in, on the 1 hour chart, what you would have seen is the 1 hour trend is up. Then it comes down, puts in another higher bottom, and in this area where it starts to hold, yes, when the trend line break came in on the 15-minute in this area and started to move down, it was starting to form that lower top. So that was starting to initiate a change in trend on that second trend line break. So what we often get is if you've got a resistance area or a fib level area that could act as resistance, often price can move through it, like it did here yesterday, then fall back below it. But when it comes up for the retest, it holds as resistance in this case because it's a downtrend, and that's where your first lower top area comes in. So often it can go through, false break, move back below, retest, and then down she comes. So we broke support here on the 1 hour chart, came down, came back up to retest and hold, and moved down. So there was resistance, came through, became support, rally, break, becomes resistance, moving down. The support and resistance working on the 1 hour chart. All right, Nathan, hopefully that answered your question in the chat. Okay, everybody, nobody's asking me to review anything, so just going to give you a minute for any final questions. Anything you want to ask me, and then I think we'll call it an evening. I've given you more than enough analysis there to move away this evening and analyze your charts and look for some trading opportunities. Obviously, a lot of these pairs have already moved down from the best levels to trade from today, so you may have to wait for a bit of a price cycle back up, maybe into tomorrow's trading session. Look for the next opportunity to trade down in a lot of those negative pairs. But looking across the market at the moment, after we're seeing on this dollar yen playing at major resistance at the moment, back on the monthly chart up here, all the yen pairs, which have been in good trends over the last fortnight, so they're all playing at resistance, except for the New Zealand yen. It's a bit short of resistance. Aussie yen, pound yen, euro yen, they're all playing at resistance. They're all putting lower tops. So it looks like we're getting complete change in trend on the yen crosses. So at the moment, they're definitely, well, for me anyway, the favored pairs, because it's quite clear there's a highly correlated move moving down from this fair resistance on the dollar yen. And that's translating into, so there's the day chart putting in a lower top on the dollar yen. Let's go through all the yen crosses before we finish. The daily, let me just take my fib off. Take away my trend line, putting in a lower top. Euro yen's a lot more negative. It's put in a lower top and breaking below its bottom. There's a lower top and it's breaking below this lower bottom. Pound yen, which has been maybe one of the stronger pairs to the yen. That's the big resistance area on the weekly chart. And we're putting in a lower top, trying to get back below this little level of support formed on that weekly top. So that's more negative. New Zealand yen is putting in a lower top, probably break the low today. That's getting negative. It's just not filled at a really great level that I like. All right, so you can clearly see there that, see all these long legs that we've had up, long moves. So we had a long move up, pound yen, long move up, and the dollar yen, long move up. Wouldn't surprise me to see that these legs that have been put in, there's the leg. Wouldn't surprise me to see that if price comes all the way back down to the start of where the leg started over the next couple of weeks, time will tell. So, you know, the Aussie had a very good run. Wouldn't surprise me to see there's the leg. Wouldn't surprise me to see that come back down to that area. That's often what happens when you get those big long legs. It comes back to the point where it initiated its start from. So you can watch and review that, make a note. And as we're going through the webinars next week and the week after, we can see whether or not that's going to come to fruition. But often when you get a big break up from a point, and it started here on the Aussie yen, that could be where price is coming back to now that it's fading up here. All right, we'll see if that happens. All right, nobody's asking me to review a particular instrument. That's all good. So I'm going to call it an evening. For those that are on YouTube, if you've been following along, thanks very much. I couldn't actually, if you've been typing in questions, I can't see your questions, unfortunately. If you want to come to the webinars and ask questions, then all you need to do is come to our webinar sign up page. It's at acy.com, education webinars. This is tonight's webinar. Tomorrow, it's another market analysis webinar for Thursday the 27th, 8 o'clock Sydney time. In fact, that just needs to refresh. For some reason, my page isn't refreshing, or it's got two entries for some reason. There we go. That's today's. That should fall off tonight. That's tomorrow's, Thursdays, and then next Tuesdays when we start the new round of the beginner webinar series, started with understanding a candlestick chart and identifying candlestick patterns. So that starts next Tuesday, 8 o'clock Sydney time. So one more for this week. That's tomorrow, 28th, starting at 8 o'clock again Sydney time, another live market analysis webinar. So I'll try and keep my charts as they are, and then we can see what's been happening relative to what we've been discussing today. So yes, if you're on YouTube, thanks for attending. Sorry I couldn't answer your questions if you type them in, but just come over to the registration page and register and join the rest of us in the live webinar. All right, everybody, those that have been in the webinar, thanks very much for attending. It's always great to have you on board. Stay safe, have a great evening, and look forward to seeing you again, hopefully tomorrow. Thank you.